When is Skynet?
I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
The repeater controller is correct. I'll be starting Skynet in about 3 minutes. If you need to use the repeater before the net, do it now, please. This is N5BB.
KI-5 JCM, I am actually way too excited for Skynet. Way more than I should be. KI-5 JCM, standing by.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Hang on, I misplaced the script. I'll be right back. N5BB. Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin? Skynet, this is N5BB, Net Control. My name is Bill, and I'll be your Net Control station. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning astronomy and space. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for the net. You do not need to be a member of any particular club to participate. Stations with priority emergency traffic can enter the net at any time by making the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me in 5BB. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a field tone of 110.9. And I'm having a trouble getting on Echolink, so I'm going to have to use a different computer here. So I'm going to be on Echolink later. You can get on Echolink using a W5FC-R, station ID, Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radios operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. Okay, the net is 90 minutes long in several sections. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control Station, that would be me, was up, space exploration and space history, the constellation for the week, space launches for the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and if we have time, visible satellite passages, and astronomical questions and answers, followed by the 73 round, which means we all say goodbye. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Now let's start with low power and short time check-ins. If you're a short time, if you can't stay here very long, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet, Net Control.
Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, KI5, JCM, Thomas and Euless.
Whiskey 9, Victor Echo, Don in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
It looks like we have three, KI5JCM, W9VE, and K5MCD. Do any of you fine stations have any announcements or things for the net before you leave? If so, come now with your call sign. Okay, do we have any other short-time check-ins? If so, please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, we're going to do Echolink later. So now I'm looking for general RF check-ins. If you'd like to check into the net via RF, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet, net control.
Kilo Charlie 5, Romeo Alpha India, Charles here in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz and Mesquite. Bill, it looks like the Irving repeater is linked to this repeater via Echolink.
Well, I did not do that, but somebody else may have. Any other stations?
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform. David, St. Paul, Texas.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha Uniform, David in Mesquite.
We may have a very short net tonight. Okay, I recognize KC5RAI, Charles, KF5JHA, Chaz, KG5EIU, David, N5OF, Clay, and KI5UAU, David. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, Chaz, I just verified that somebody has, for some reason, linked the Irving Echolink node with this one. And the only way I know of to easily stop it is for me to go up and reset the computer, or start and stop the Echolink. But I'm going to do that a little later. I can check in the W5FC Echolink here, and I see a few stations. So I'm going to check in, since that's all the RF check-ins we had, I'm going to check in NT5TM, Tony, Chaz here, K5KTX, Kelly, and KE5ICX, Tom. I will disconnect the Irving thing later, because the only way I know of doing it is to go up and do it by disconnecting on the computer end. Tom, if you can do it on your end, that would be nice. I don't know if you can disconnect the CKF repeater on your end, on this end, but if you can, it'd be nice. Otherwise, I'll go do it when somebody else is talking. Oh, Tom can't do it easily. Okay, I'll do it in a few minutes. Okay, Tony, NT5TM, do you want to check in on voice? Well, maybe Tony just didn't check out from TechNet. K5KTX, Kelly, do you want to check in on voice?
Good evening, Bill. This is K5KTX, Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly, in point.
Very good, Kelly. Well, this Echolink is working fine. I recognize K5KTX, Kelly in Point, Texas. K5ICX. Hey, Tom, do you want to check in? Well, I know he's lurking because he just texted on the Echolink. Brenda, WZL, do you want to check in? Let me try one more time. WB5OZL. Brenda, do you want to... Oh, Brenda has no microphone tonight. Okay, Brenda, we'll check you in. Tom, you want to check in now with your PL tone on?
Yeah, let's see if that's a little better. Oh, yeah, I think that's better. This is KE5ICX.
Well, we've got technical things going on all over the place tonight, I tell you. One more try. Does anybody else want to check in on RF or on Echolink? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, last station there, you blipped the repeater, but no audio. Try again. This is N5BB, Skynet. Well, that didn't work. Okay, I'm checked in twice. I'm going to get rid of one of them here. Okay, I'm still watching Echolink, and that looks like all the people. And we've checked in everybody on RF. So I think it's time to move ahead in the net. Let's get started with general announcements. Does anybody have a general announcement for tonight's net? If so, this is something involving amateur radio, astronomy, space, something of general interest to licensed hams. If you got anything, please come now with your call sign only, N5BB. Oh boy, this is going to be a really boring net tonight, especially since you got to listen to me talk about the topic for the evening. It's really going to be boring. I've got something I'll just mention now up front. I'll mention it later also. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society is going to go see the science fiction-y movie. It's a weird one, Asteroid City. It's a Wes Anderson movie. And we're going to see it on the 4th of July, Tuesday. Since there's some parades in the morning and there's fireworks in the evening, we're going to see it in the afternoon. It's the 2 o'clock showing of Asteroid City at the Cinemark Dallas XD in IMAX. This is the one on Webb Chapel. This is the one that's a block away from the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting site. It's the one where this group has had many movies we've seen there before the pandemic, but we haven't gotten back in the saddle since then. So our space group is going to do it, and you're welcome to attend. You're welcome to come over with us, spacey nerds, on Tuesday. So if you're going to do this, if you don't mind, send me an email so we know to look for you. My email address is n5bb@arrl.net. That's November 5, Bravo, n5bb@arrl.net. Does anybody have any questions about that event on Tuesday at 2 p.m., N5BB?
NV5F, I don't have a question, but I did have an announcement for before. I just didn't get to the radio quick enough. NV5F.
No problem, Virginia. I will check you into the net and go right ahead with your announcement.
Okay. Yes, and thank you for checking me in. I wanted to remind everybody about Moon Day. It's going to be 3 weeks from today at Frontiers of Flight Museum near Dallas Love Field, and it will be from, I believe, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and the Dallas ARC will be there with the booth, and a bunch of us AMSAT people will be right next door to them, and we'll try to do some AMSAT demonstrations. There's a bunch of really neat exhibits there. The National Space Society will be there, and the Mars Society is usually there, and some rocketry groups. And the museum itself is amazing, and there's usually really amazing programming along with Moon Day, so we'll be probably talking about that a lot the next couple weeks. Anyway, I wanted to remind people of that wonderful event they do at Frontiers of Flight near the anniversary of the first moon landing every year. So thank you very much, Bill. Back to net, NV5F.
Very good, Virginia. I would have forgotten to talk about that because it's still 3 weeks away, but it's a good time to remind people. Kelly, K5KTX, are you going to be at Moon Day with your telescope, and are you going to look for any sunspots outside? There's a really interesting, humongous sunspot group right now, but I'm not sure if it'll be back around or we can see it again in 3 weeks. Any guess there? K5KTX and 5BB.
KTX, yes. I will be at Moon Day, but no. I will not be outside with my telescope. Even though I have a solar telescope, I will be inside, and I will be talking about the upcoming annular and total solar eclipses that we have. Here to stop by and say hello. This is K5KTX.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, let me see if I can look at Echolink real quick. I'm having some difficulties here because of whoever has interconnected the two repeaters. It's making it hard for me to check into Echolink via my PC, and so I have to use my iPad. Okay. I also see KG5ZMG. Joe, do you want to check into the net?
Absolutely. Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf. This is in Arlington.
Well, gotcha, Joe, KG5ZMG. And that's the last person that I see over on Echolink. Okay. So, before I move ahead with some other announcements, does anybody else have any announcements? This is N5BB, Skynet. I've got some that were inserted into the script because Tony isn't here. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club Board and General Meeting will take place on Tuesday, July the 11th, not Tuesday, July 4th. Please ignore that those incorrect emails that came out inviting you to the July 4th event. There is no meeting on July the 4th. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting is going to be on the second Tuesday of July because of the holiday next week. So July the 11th for the DARC meetings. The Afterglow movie tonight is the Field Day movie we saw, Bride of the Monster from 1955. Tom, can you describe this movie? I know you can't do it in 10 words or less, so take your time and straighten it all out for us, because I'm confused. I was very confused by that movie. KE5ICX, what's going on with Bride of the Monster in 5BB?
Well, Bill, yes, this is KE5ICX. I think I came out of this movie more confused than when I went in. But at any rate, here's what I wrote up about it. Dr. Eric Varnoff was a terrible neighbor. In fact, he spent quite a bit of time calling the cops for noisy parties at the Dracula residence next door. He also wasn't above using a garden hose on Girl Scouts soaking their uniforms and cooking. He wasn't a very nice man. But as when he released his giant octopus on a postal worker, the neighborhood simply had enough. So join us tonight at 10:30 p.m. if you weren't with us last Saturday, or if you were, we all watched it together. I'm not sure we all watched it together, but we watched it separately. I'll make more comments about that during the net. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Tom, if you would stand by here, if you have the script pulled up, I'd like you to fill in for me for a few minutes, because I need to go up and reset the WA5CKF Echo Link so it doesn't screw up the traffic net here in 5 minutes. So I need to be away from the radio for a few minutes. All I'll say is there will be a DARC meeting on the air tomorrow. It's Sunday evening at 7 p.m. And there will be a Racy's training net tomorrow at 8 p.m. And there will be Ham Fixings Monday at 7 p.m. So there will be the meeting on the air, the Racy's net, and Ham Fixings. But there will not be a DARC meeting on Tuesday. It'll be delayed a week. And Tom, if you don't mind, could you give all the rest of the announcements all the way up to the Texas Astronomical Society? I'll be back by then, if you don't mind, Tom, in 5BB.
Yeah, I can do that. This is KE5ICX. My name is Tom. I'll be your alternate net control for announcements. So, what do we have? Well, the general announcements like we do every week. We have the AMSAT net, which is actually, just go ahead and bring this stuff up because I got to do the video feed too. The group has three nets available to Dallas residents, Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. This one is actually out of Houston. You'll need Echolink installed and registered. You can find the net under groups and AMSAT under the Echolink group list. Also, there's a live audio and video link available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. A Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, is every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on this repeater with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYT is the net control, and all are welcome to check in. Unless, of course, it's the first Tuesday of the month. Well, we don't have that. It'll be the second Tuesday of the month this week, so there will be no AMSAT Net East. There's also Dallas AMSAT Net West every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That's 147.140 megahertz with a PO tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. Now, there are a number of nets for the Dallas area. On the Dallas repeater, the DARC repeater. Mondays are popular alternating nets, first through fifth week, all Mondays. The first week we have Ham Fixings Net. That one starts at 7 o'clock. Like we all know that not only do hams like to eat, they also like to cook. So come and bring your recipes for that one. And any cooking tips you might have. Second Monday is MCOM 101. That's Kevin, N5KRG. Talk about all things having to do with emergency communications. Ever thought about getting involved? Hey, here's the net to check in on. Usually there are other folks who are part of served agencies for emergency communications. They'll answer your questions. Third week, Monday, 7 p.m. is the second helping of Ham Fixes. You know about that. Fourth week is GeekNet. That's usually handled by Tony, NT5PM. Tony opens it up beyond amateur radio, but we always feature amateur radio. A bunch of interesting things, geeky, having to do with computers, science, you name it, he's got it. Sometimes there's even a puzzler. And then if there's a rare fifth Monday, we have a surprise net. We told you what it is. It wouldn't be a surprise. Always on-air participation is encouraged. Usually you have some sort of interactive thing with everybody who's on the net. Always fun. I told you about Tuesday's AMSAT Net Meet. Let me go to Fridays. There's CERT City Simulation 8 p.m. on this repeater. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH is usually the net control, although she does rotate with others. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City, at 8 p.m. All are welcome. Then we have Saturdays, the Night of Nets, with TechNet started from 7 to 8. All things having to do with amateur radio and technical. Then we have Skynet from 9 until 10:30, which is what you're listening to now. And then we have the Afterglow Movie Net, which I just told you about. First and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, or MODA. Find out all things having to do with the DARC and the active things that are going on for the club. Let me see, what else? I gave you the information on that. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is W5FC-R at any time. Okay, let me put that back, and it looks like Bill has cleared the link, so I'm going to ask if Bill's there. N5DB, are you ready?
Yes, I am, Tom. Are you ready for the TAS section? Have you gotten that far?
I've not read it yet, so you can call on Chaz, KE5ICS.
Okay, very good. Yes, the W85CKF Echolink computer was in need to be rebooted. It was trying to do a Windows update. So it's right now rebooting, so it won't be connected. Chaz, before we go, let's look for check-ins. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is in 5BB, net control.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carrollton.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Okay, very good. I recognize KAG9SG Antonio, KG5WVL James, and W5GUS Gus. Do we have any other check-ins via any mode in 5BB?
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
Kilo
India 5, Uniform Juliet, Mobile, and Anna.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go back through all these. I recognize AG9SX, KG5WVL, W5GUS, and WB4MFI. And who is the UUJ station at the end? You're noisy.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Anna.
Was that KI5 UUJ, Justin? Well, you're very weak and noisy. I'll just assume that I've got you. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is I don't see anybody else on Echolink. Any other Skynet check-ins? This is N5BB, net control. Now, Chaz, KF5JHA, go right ahead with the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. This is N5BB, net control of Skynet.
Thank you so much, Bill. This is KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, July the 28th. It's the year 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Michael Reimer, and his topic will be about the upcoming solar eclipses that we've already heard about, and suggestions on what the TASS organization should do for public observing sessions. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. TASS was picked to be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions. Tonight, on the first Saturday of the month, stargazing would have been held at Fairview, but because of clouds, it was canceled. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control. Bill, it's all yours, N5BB.
Oh, you weren't long enough. I didn't get to rest my voice long enough. Okay, Chaz, thank you very much. Now the next section of the net is National Space Society events, and the July meeting of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society will be on Sunday afternoon, July the 9th. That's a week from tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183. I happen to be the membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter and member at large. If you'd like any more information about National Space Society or their local chapter or this meeting, please give me an email, space@byram.net or n5bb@arrl.net. The North Texas chapter has an active Facebook page. Just look for National Space Society of North Texas on Facebook, and also has a Twitter and some other social media things, and a website, ntx.nss.org. As I mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat, we are going to have see a movie, the Asteroid City, new Wes Anderson weird science fiction movie. I've seen it. I'm going to see it a second time. It's that good. I like it. It's got interesting people. It's got Scarlett Johansson. It's got Tom Hanks. And it's got lots of other interesting characters that are in it for sometimes just a moment and sometimes for a long time. I won't say anything else about it except one thing. Make sure you watch the credits at the end. You'll see dancing roadrunners. They're dancing to the music. They really are. They're going back and forth, dancing to the music. So it's a weird movie. It's very fun. If you'd like to see it with us, you can do it on July the 4th. That's right. In 3 days, Tuesday afternoon. We're going to see it at the 2 o'clock showing at the Cinemark, IMAX, and HD, I guess it's called, a movie theater, Webb Chapel Road, just a block south of where the Dallas Image Radio Club meets. It's on the southwest corner of Webb Chapel at 635. And again, that will be at 2 p.m. this coming Tuesday, July the 4th. Feel free to come and see it with us. We would like to have you there. Okay. Before I move ahead with other National Space Society events, are there any additional check-ins? Or questions. N5BB, net control. Okay, somebody blipped the repeater. Are you trying to check in or make a comment? This is N5BB, Skynet, net control. Station calling is far too weak. You're not making the repeater at all. Okay, some other news things related to humans in space, doing things in space. 2 more nations signed the Artemis Accords. On June the 21st, Ecuador completed a ceremony at the Ecuadorian Embassy in Washington, D.C., signing on to the Artemis Accords. Afterward, India signed on. So now the Artemis Accords, a multi-nation national coalition, has 27 nations, and it's led by the U.S., and it will return humans to the lunar surface for the first time in over 50 years, in just a few years. The Artemis Accords is an agreement on how we're going to deal with going to the moon and doing things on the moon, how countries deal with each other. Another interesting, exciting thing happened this morning. The European Space Agency launched the Euclid, UCLID Space Telescope. This telescope was launched this morning, and it'll complement dark energy studies by the upcoming Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope and another space telescope whose name I've forgotten. But there will be several telescopes that are going to be doing research on distant galaxies, looking for dark energy, trying to figure it out. It's still kind of mysterious. So, it lifted off this morning at 10:12 a.m. Central Daylight Time from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. So it's going to figure out about why the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate. This is due to what's referred to as dark energy. One more news item I have about things humans do in space. NASA's Ingenuity Mars helicopter phones home. So, on April the 26th, the Ingenuity Mars helicopter made its 52nd flight. But we really didn't know it was a success until now. Why? Because it landed at a location which was behind a ridge, and it was invisible from the Perseverance rover, which is the relay the RF signals back to the Earth through a satellite going around the Mars. Anyway, there was a hill in the way. So, back on June the 28th, a few days ago, the Perseverance rover had moved far enough, and that they reestablished communication with the Mars helicopter, the Ingenuity, and it's all fine. And they're planning for another flight Flight 52. It's supposed to be a 139-second, 363-meter flight. That was the previous one. And they're planning the next one. So the Ingenuity rover and the Ingenuity helicopter and the Perseverance rover have been very successful. This is N5BB, Skynet. So that's all the National Space Society and Humans in Space things I have for tonight. Do we have any other comments or questions or check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, now unfortunately you've got to listen to me if you're listening to the net. It's time for the discussion topic of the evening by your net control, N5BB. I'm going to talk about the item which was in the news this week, not just the science news, but the general news. If you didn't hear about this, you weren't looking at very many news sources this week. The first evidence of giant gravitational waves thrills astronomers. Pulsar timing irregularities reveals hidden gravitational wave background. The universe is undulating. This is from Physics World, July 29th issue. The universe is undulating with a background commotion of gravitational waves that have been emitted by pairs of supermassive black holes. This is according to years' worth of pulsar observations that have been conducted by several teams of radio astronomers. Using radio telescopes in Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, and the U.S., these teams pioneered the innovative technique of watching for subtle variations in the timing of radio beams from millisecond pulsars. Millisecond pulsars are one of nature's most precise clocks. They're spinning neutron stars that flash radio pulses at us hundreds of times per second with unerring accuracy. As gravitational waves ripple through the space between us and these individual pulsars in our galaxy, they distort the distance that these pulses have to travel to reach us by about the size of a football pitch. So we're talking about, dozens of meters. This results in a pulses arriving at Earth slightly early or slightly late, with the variations in the timing of the pulses amounting to nanoseconds, that's billionths of a second, corresponding to gravitational waves with frequencies in the nanohertz regime. This means this is over like on the order of 1 billion seconds, which is several years. This is a far lower frequency than the gravitational wave events detected by LIGO and Virgo. They measure black holes that are neutron stars, which are merging individual black holes and neutron stars, and they measure between 5 hertz and 20 kilohertz. The corresponding wavelength of these background gravitational waves, the new ones I'm describing here, is huge, with the waves stretching between 2 and 10 light years from peak to peak. That's right, 2 to 10 light years. So they're very slow. Multiple detections. The European Pulsar Timing Array incorporates 5 of the major radio observatories in France, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands, and the UK. The new results encompass over 2 decades worth of observations. Teams in Australia, China, South Africa, and the U.S. have also simultaneously published their pulsar timing data. We're all basically seeing the same thing, Michael Keith, the University of Manchester, told the Physics World. That's certainly encouraging. What we're looking at is a background of noise with gravitational waves from all over, constantly washing over the Earth. What everyone is seeing are myriad gravitational waves all overlapping with one another, having been emitted by distant extragalactic sources at random times and locations. Think of waves landing on a beach, one after another on top of each other. This is N5BB, Skynet. These findings are different to the distinct events by LIGO, which come from merging neutron stars, or stellar mass black holes with the mass similar to a star. So this is not individual events, it's this background noise from these these large, supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies that are orbiting each other as they get close. So what do they think happens? They think there's been a galaxy merger, and each of these galaxies probably has a supermassive black hole, which are incredibly large. And eventually they'll merge, but it takes a long time. But before they merge, they're going around themselves at a very big distance. This distance could be, as much as a light year. It's a long distance, and it's just amazing how this all happens. It appears from the amount of gravitational waves they've discovered that there's a huge population of binary supermassive black holes in the universe with hundreds of thousands of pairs, if not millions. I'm saying this wrong. The formation of galaxies in a hierarchy. Galaxies grow by merging with other galaxies. The next step is to try to sift through the background and distinguish specific gravitational waves and trace them back to their sources. The data can then be combined with observations in the electromagnetic regime of light. There's also the potential for new and unexpected discoveries to be made on this new frontier. This is N5BB, Skynet. So again, these things are at least as large. The waves are between the size of our solar system and several light years. They're very long waves. They're nanohertz frequencies. They don't need to build $1 billion detector. They just put together a lot of radio telescopes and look very carefully at the timing. So the North America Nanograv collaboration looked at 68 different pulsars, and the new data in their project ran through August 2020, when unfortunately the Puerto Rico Arecibo Observatory started collapsing. So we can see if there's any other comments I can make here. So they expected that these supermassive black holes should be merging, but up to now they didn't have any observational evidence. So this is evidence that they're at least getting close to each other. They're spinning in. So they still there's still some uncertainty. They think it's caused by these black holes, but they don't know for sure. So it's going to take more research and listening to these and analyzing before they know for sure that this is the cause of this gravitational waves they're detecting. This is N5BB, Skynet. So to detect individual supermassive black hole boundary systems, they need to have extremely precise timing of the very best pulsars. And the FAST telescope in China is leading the way for doing that. So they're working on the Square Kilometre Array in Australia and South Africa, and they're due to begin operations by 2027. There's also a North American scientist who hope to have the Deep Synoptic Array 2000, and they propose building it in Nevada, and that would also be good. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any other comments before I end here. They look at differences in the timing comparable to measuring a distance between the Earth and the Moon to within a thousandth of a millimeter, 1 micron. Very, very tight timing. Right now, their detection is at the 3.5 to 4 sigma level. That's a degree of confidence, indicating more than 99% confidence. Physics likes to have the 5 sigma threshold. It's more like 99.9%. They're short of that, but they're not calling this a discovery. They've called it an observation. But they hope to be able to get enough information, more data over the next few years to be able to get to that higher degree of significance. The background signal could be other, more exotic sources. Primordial gravitational waves might have been generated shortly after the Big Bang. If the universe expended convulsions from a still hypothetical breakneck expansion in size known as inflation. Also, some theorists posit that the violent emergence of one of the fundamental forces of nature left defects in space-time called cosmic streams, which those could vibrate like piano wires and emit gravitational waves. So they're not really sure yet, but they think it's coming from the ultramassive black holes. That's everything I have about that topic. This is N5BB, Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins or questions or comments? I hear a very weak station, but you're too weak to be understood. Can you do anything to improve your signal? Please try one more time.
Kilo Uniform, David, Rowlett, Texas.
Okay, I heard Uniform, David, and Rowlett. Can you give me your call one more time, David? Try it one more time, David. Just your call sign only.
KG5 UKU.
We got it, David. KG5 UKU, David and Rowlett. You finally made it, David. The last time was much, much better. Okay, do we have any other check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. Nothing heard, and I saw nothing on Echolink. So now it's time for Chaz to come back on for What's Up. Hey, Chaz, what's up? We've had some clear weather some days. What's going on? KF5JHA, N5BB. KF5JHA, N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. We have had some clear weather, and at the expense of 100-degree plus weather. So a lot of people may have gone out observing after it got dark because it was cooler. And now, we call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. We've got a chance of rain every day over the next 5 days or so. So I assume it's going to be a lot of clouds like it is tonight. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. June the 26th was the first quarter moon, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Full moon is on July the 3rd. July the 4th, Independence Day, the moon will be at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 360,149 kilometers. On July the 9th is the third quarter moon. On July the 17th, the moon is new. On July the 20th, the moon is at apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,289 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On Tuesday, Independence Day, July the 4th, the planets Venus and Mars will be in conjunction with the bright star Regulus in the western evening sky. So when you go out and look at fireworks on Tuesday, I hope it's clear and you can take a look at this astronomical phenomenon. Slide Master, slide number 4. On July the 7th, the moon and the planet Saturn are in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. Slide number 5, please. The very next morning, on July the 8th, the moon is in conjunction with Neptune in the eastern sky. Now, you need to get a telescope to see Neptune. Binoculars aren't going to work. You're going to need a telescope. Slide Master, slide number 6. On July the 10th, the planet Mars and the star Regulus will be in conjunction in the western evening sky. And a few hours later, slide number 7, in the early morning of July 11th, the moon will be in conjunction with the planet Jupiter in the eastern morning sky. And just 24 hours after that, on the morning of July the 12th, the moon will be in conjunction with the planet Uranus in the eastern sky. Now, you need at least a pair of binoculars. You might not need a telescope because a pair of binoculars might be okay to see the planet Uranus. Slide Master, slide number 9. And on the morning after that, on July the 13th, the moon will be in conjunction with the Pleiades star cluster in the eastern morning sky. Pleiades is an awesome thing to see. I've even seen it just a few miles from downtown Dallas with just my 2 eyes, so hopefully you can see this. Slide Master, slide number 10. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas submeeting, again, is going to be on Friday, July the 28th. Meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. Michael Reimer is going to be talking about the upcoming solar eclipses and suggestions about what tasks we'll be doing for the general public observing sessions. And once again, tonight's observing session, stargazing, at Fairview was canceled due to clouds. For more information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, go to their website, texasastro.org, and you'll find out more information. Now, Slide Master, slide number 11. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Slide Master, slide number 12. So as the moon wanes next week, so are these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well. Pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least right now. And until next week, well, actually I'll be doing another segment in Skynet in a few moments. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, backdoor net control. That would be N5BP, better known as Bill.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Rolling right along, do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, very weak station. We didn't get anything. You want to try again? N5BB. nothing heard. You're just too weak right now. Okay, Kelly, K5KTX. Can you tell us about space exploration and space history? This is N5BB, net control, Skynet. Uh-oh. Yes, Chaz, we did lose Kelly. Kelly, where are you? K5KTX N5BB. You're off of Echolink. Do you have an RF connection possible? Let's move ahead during the net, and we could either read, somebody else could read this, or we could come back to it next week. Chaz, you want to give us Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week? This is N5BB, Skynet.
That will be fine. Thank you, Bill. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Such are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Scorpius, the Scorpion. Now, Scorpius is the constellation of the Scorpion and is one of the few constellations that actually looks, more or less, like the creature that it represents. The best-known mythology regarding Scorpius has the Scorpion as the mortal enemy of Orion, the mighty hunter. Orion boasted that there was not any animal on the earth that he could not conquer. To punish him for his vanity, the goddess Juno sent the Scorpion to spring out of the earth and sting Orion, killing him. At the request of goddess Diana, Orion was placed in the sky among the stars. Scorpius was also placed in the sky, but at the point exactly opposite where Orion is placed, so that the Scorpius would rise, Orion would set, and vice versa. So the two are never seen in the sky at the same time. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. The jokes of the week. So we just heard about it. The Scorpion killed Orion in battle, and both were placed in the sky. Now, how would you fill in the rest of this? Well, they were placed in the sky as a constellation prize. Come on, that was funny. Imagine you're about to be attacked by a giant scorpion. What do? Stop imagining. What do you call a scorpion that just scored a goal? A scorpion. The astronomer said, I don't believe in astrology at all. All right, do you want to fill in that one? Fill in the blank after that one is, but I'm a Scorpio, and we're all born skeptics. I don't like astrology, but I had to put that one in there. What do you get when you cross a scorpion and a fish? Well, a stingray, of course. And this last one in this part of Skynet, I walked into the house and spotted a scorpion. It watched every step I took, and it must have been a sting operation. Slide Master, slide number 15. Help me get out of this, please. Antares, which is also known as Alpha Scorpii, literally means the rival of Ares, with Ares being the Greek name for Mars. So it's often translated as the rival of Mars instead. Its name comes from the fact that it looks so much like Mars because of its red color and the fact that it shines at about the same brightness that Mars oftentimes shines. During those times when Mars is in Scorpius and Ophiuchus region, is near Antares, the two make quite an interesting pair to look at. Antares is a first magnitude M-type or red star. It's also a red supergiant. It's so huge that if Antares were placed in the center of our solar system instead of our sun, the entire orbit of Mars and everything inside of that would be inside the stars. Not to mention those of Mercury, Venus, Earth, all those orbits. My friend Dennis Harwell says, this in mind, if Ares and Mars were truly rivals, my money would be on Antares because it's so much larger. Antares is also a double star. It has a faint companion that is slightly over 2 arcseconds away and shining somewhere around 5th to 6th magnitude. It requires good optics and good seeing to split the pair. The color of the companion star is often reported as green, although there are actually not any green stars, so it's really a blue in color. Acrab is the next star, or Beta Scorpii. Beta Scorpii is a double star and is much easier to split than Antares, earning a place in the double star list in the Astronomical League of Urban Club. Both stars are type B with a blue-white color and not much color contrast between them. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. M4, well, that would be Messier's list, number 4th object, is a globular cluster in a single object. It's very nice. It's listed in 5 different Astronomical League observing clubs. M4 is fairly easy to find since it is in somewhere a low-powered field of view as Antares and nearby Sigma Scorpii. M4 is more sparsely populated than many other globular clusters, but you can see it in pair binoculars. Some photographs show a denser vertical bar of stars across the center of the cluster. Visual observers have seen it this as well in their observing of it. In his book, The Messier Object, Stephen James O'Meara likens this vertical bar to the slitted pupil of a cat's eye. Where's Bob the cat when I need him? To use that as an example. Oh, he went outside. Side Master, side number 17. M80 is another globular cluster, not as big. It's an easy way to find M80 is simply to draw a line from Antares to Beta Scorpii, and M80 is very near the midpoint of this line. M80 is smaller than M4, but much more densely populated globular cluster. Due to its small size and a 3-inch scope at low power, it is almost star-like center, with only a bit of tiny wispiness marking the outer regions. In the target, an 8-inch to 10-inch scope, the outer regions of M80 are better resolved into stars, but the core still looks like a solid white to many observers, even with larger telescopes. Slide Master, slide number 18. M6 and M7 are the very first 2 M objects that I found on my own with my 2-inch Tasco telescope. So let me talk about M6 first. M6 is an open cluster that has long been known as the butterfly cluster because many observers see the shape as a butterfly formed by the stars. The cluster has about 100 members spread out over an area of about 26 arc minutes in diameter, just slightly smaller than the full moon's diameter. And by the way, M6 and M7 are at the tail of the Scorpions. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. M7 is a naked eye Messier object. M7 is sometimes referred to as Ptolemy's cluster because it was first written as a record by Claudius Ptolemy back in the 2nd century. So I guess it's naked eye. M7 is easy to find since it is visible to the naked eye. It just looks like a fuzzy area at the stinger of the Scorpion. In dark skies away from objects in the constellation of Scorpius, the Scorpion, I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, I believe we're up to 77 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide number 21, please, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Scorpius the Scorpion. I want to thank my friends Dennis Harwell and Dave Hutchinson for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time I'll be taking a look at Hercules, the strongman. Yeah, you've heard about him. Something about some chores like cleaning out stables. We'll talk about that next time on Skynet. And this is KF5JJ sending it back to our net control. Bill, it's all yours. 73, everyone. Have a great Independence Day on Tuesday.
Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. I see KC5MPO now on Echolink. Jamie, do you want to check into the net? Well, Jamie just left. Okay, do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
November 8 Whiskey Romeo. Bill, thank you for running the net, and thanks to all the contributors there for the count. NAWWR. Romy, Grapevine.
NAWWR. Thank you very much, Romy. Do we have any other check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sir Oscar Kilo, shot in Fort Worth.
And KB9 is okay. Hello, Sean. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? Okay, K5ICX and 5BB. Tom, you told me Brenda didn't have a microphone, and unfortunately I see that she was going to talk about gravitational waves from the black hole that I already talked about, which I neglected to notice when I was entering my information. I apologize. Kelly isn't here. Tom, do you want to go ahead and read some of the Space Coast launches and or the visible satellite passages, K5ICX and 5BB?
Bill, I can do that if you'd like. I'll go ahead and give Kelly full credit. KCX, I can read her segment, which is more informational and probably more interesting than what I got. Would you prefer that? And I'll just go ahead and throw the slides up for those that are watching. KE5ICX.
Yeah, she isn't here, so I can't ask her. As long as we don't offend her, let's go ahead and you go ahead and read that section, okay? This is N5BB.
Okay, fine. I don't think she'd mind. We've had this before. That's part of the reason why we put the script out. And with her on Echolink, you never know what's going to happen, and we never know what's going to happen, which is exactly what happened tonight. All right, well, let me go ahead and read Kelly, K5KCX's contribution this week, which is space exploration and space history. She starts out with the 52nd flight of the NASA Ingenuity Mars helicopter is now an official mission logbook as a success. The flight took place back on April 25th. The mission controllers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California lost contact with the helicopter and sent it towards the surface. for landing. The Ingenuity team expected communications drop out because the hill in between the helicopter's landing location and Perseverance rover position, blocking communications between the two. The rover acts as a radio relay between the helicopter and the mission controllers at JPL. In anticipation of loss of communications, the Ingenuity team has already developed a recontact plan for when the rover would drive back within range. Contact was reestablished on June 28th when Perseverance crests the hill. You could see Ingenuity again. The goal of Flight 52 of 1,191 foot and 139 second long flight was to reposition the helicopter and take images of the Martian surface for the rover's science team. Portion of Jezero crater the rover and helicopter are currently exploring is a lot of rugged terrain which makes communications drop out more likely. The team's goal is to keep Ingenuity ahead of Perseverance, which occasionally involves temporarily pushing beyond communications limits. 63 days is a long time to wait for the results of the flight, but the data coming in indicates all is well with the first aircraft on another world. If the remainder of the Ingenuity's health checks are equally rosy, the helicopter may fly again within the next couple of weeks. The target of Flight 53 is an interim airfield to the west, from which the team plans to perform another westward flight to the new base of operations near rocky outcrops that the Perseverance team is interested in exploring. Then this day in space history, on June 25th of 1992, Florentine astronomer Galileo Galilei discovered Jupiter's moon Callisto in 1610. For this discovery and others, a NASA spacecraft sent to orbit Jupiter at the end of the 20th century was named Galileo in his honor. In 1992, nearly 4 centuries after its namesake made his famous discovery, the Galileo probe visited Callisto. On June 25th, 1992, Galileo made its second close flyby of Callisto, coming to within 450 kilometers of the heavily cratered surface. The Galileo probe also visited Jupiter's other moons and orbited Jupiter 34 times, traveling a total of 4.6 billion kilometers. Its mission was terminated in 2003 when Galileo was intentionally plunged into the Jupiter atmosphere to avoid collision with Europa that might have contaminated the moon with Earth microbes. On June 28, 1907, aviation pioneer Glenn H. Curtiss made his first flight in the Baldwin dirigible airship, also known as a blimp. He went on to form his own aircraft company, which merged with the then Wright Aeronautical Corporation to become the Curtiss-Wright Corporation. On June 29, 1995, Shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-71 made the first of 9 dockings with Mir, Russia. Russia, the U.S., and other partners gained a tremendous amount of experience during Shuttle Mir, and this has been a foundation of incredible success of the International Space Station. On July 1st, 1976, the National Air and Space Museum, part of the Smithsonian Institution, opened to the public in Washington, D.C. It opened at the height of the United States bicentennial festivities under the leadership of Director Michael Collins, who had flown to the moon on Apollo 11. The Air and Space Museum hosted 7 capsule, which was flown by John Glenn, Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, the Bell X-1, which broke the sound barrier, the model of the Starship Enterprise used in the science fiction television show Star Trek, the original series, and the Wright brothers' Wright Flyer airplane near the entrance. And then, of course, we finish up with astronaut birthdays. This would be starting with June 26, 1952. William Palais flew STS-51J. Also on June 26 of 1956, Bernard Harris Jr. flew STS-55 and 63. June 27, 1937, Joseph Allen, who was on STS-5, STS-51A. June 27, 1951, Sidney Gutierrez, STS-40 and STS-59. June 27, 1977, Nicole Mann, SpaceX Crew 5, Expedition 67-68 at the Space Station in October of 2022. Was also the commander of Artemis and is the first Native American space. June 28, 1946, John Lounge flew STS-51I, STS-2635. June 29, 1955, Charles Precourt flew STS-55, 71, 84, 91. June 29, 1952, George Zemka flew STS-120 and 130. June 30th, 1951, Stephen Oswald, who flew STS-42, 56, and 67. Then finally, July 1st, 1963, Ed Lu was born. He flew STS-84, 106, and Expedition 7. So that was Kelly, K5KTX, the presentation for this evening. If you'd like, Bill, I'll go ahead and give you space launches for this week if you'd like.
Please go ahead, Tom, N5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And this is my segment, KE5ITX. These are space launches for the week. This information comes from spaceflightnow.com. Launch schedule. July 4th will be the launch of the Ariane 5. The ELA-3 from Kourou, French Guiana. The Ariane 5 ECA rocket is designated EA-260 will launch a Syracuse 4B and Heinrich Hertz communications satellite. The 4B, built by Airbus, will relay secure communications between the French military aircraft, ground vehicles, and naval vessels, including submarines. The Heinrich Hertz satellite, built by OHB, will test new communications technologies on a mission funded by the German government. This will be the final launch of an Ariane 5 rocket. And we have July 9th will be a flight of a Falcon 9. This will be Starlink 6-5 from SOC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Be another batch of second generation Starlink V2 mini internet satellite. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Next up was, Galaxy 37. This is the SOC-40 from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Galaxy 37 C-band television broadcasting satellite from Intelsat. The spacecraft was built by Maxar. Then we have on July 14th the Electron launch from Launch Complex 1 from Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch NASA's Starlink mission, which consists of 4 CubeSats to demonstrate technologies for future swarm satellites. It will also carry Telesat's LEO-3 demonstration satellite for spaceflight Labaraire, I guess is how it's pronounced, with 2 3U satellites for Spire Global, carrying a global communication or navigation satellite system, radio occultation payload, or GNES-RO, which provide data to improve weather models and forecasts. The first stage of the Electron rocket will be recovered after it splashes down in the ocean. Then we have also another Falcon 9 to be determined, SLC-40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This will be mPOWER 5 and 6 that will launch a broadband satellite into medium Earth orbit for SES Luxembourg. Then we have to be determined another Falcon 9, Worldview Legion 1 and 2 will be launching at some point at SLC-4E at Vandenberg. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the first pair of Worldview Legion Earth observation satellites from Maxar Technology. They will deploy 6 commercial Worldview Legion high-resolution remote sensing satellites into a mix of sun-synchronous and mid-inclination orbits on 3 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. We also have, let me do just one more here. There'll be the SDA Drake 0B launch from Vandenberg SLC-4E. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 18 Drake 0 demonstration satellites for the U.S. Military Space Development Agency and launch the second of 2 Falcon 9 missions to carry SDA demonstration spacecraft for future Constellations military missile tracking and data relay satellites. Well, I went copy crazy with a whole bunch more here, but these go into August, so we'll cover those at a later date. Let's see, 1027, so I'm going to get it back to you, Bill, KE5 on KCS.
Very good, Tom. Do we have any additional check-ins, questions, or comments for the net before I close the net this evening? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
W5GUS.
And KF5ZBL, hello, Bill. One last try. Does anybody have any astronomical questions or anything else for the 73 rounds? Any questions or comments before I close the net? This is N5BB, Skynet.
W5GUS, recheck.
Yes, go ahead, Gus.
Well, thank you, Bill. W5GUS here. I remember several months ago there was NASA was wringing their hands and saying that the Ingenuity probably will not fly again because dust, I think, had covered the solar panels. And I was wondering, I guess that did not come to pass. Evidently, Ingenuity got charged up again somehow and flying again, which is great news. So what happened with the dust on the solar panels? It wasn't as bad as they thought, or did they do something to, shake it off, or wind blew it off, or what? Any ideas on that? Any notes on the news on that? W5GUS.
I have no idea, Gus. Does anyone else on the net have any ideas about the solar panels on the Ingenuity helicopter and dust, etc.? This is N5BB.
KI5JCM.
Yes, KI5JCM. Go ahead, Thomas. Do you have any ideas?
It does have solar panels. I heard on the radio today the issue they're having is they lost line of sight with the rover, which is the...
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie.
Helps, KI5JCM, back to net.
Yes, we talked about that earlier. I just do not know if there is... what the latest status is. That was the question. Does anybody else have any idea about the latest status on the Ingenuity dust? I'm trying to do a web search now, N5BB. Well, I find people talking about the long-term problem, but I don't know of the current status, Gus. So one last try. Does anybody else know about the current status of the dust on Ingenuity? One last try before we close the net. This is N5BB. Well, Gus, I guess nobody knows the answer. I know they reconnected with the Perseverance, reconnected because it came over the hill and could see on RF Ingenuity. And so Ingenuity's working, but so it must have some kind of power, but I have no idea. I think they're going to try, charging up the batteries and sending out another mission, but I don't know the details. So sorry, Gus. Do you have any more comments, Gus? Is that good enough?
Oh yeah, they were probably several months ago. They were probably maybe over cautious or overestimating the dust collection, and obviously it did not happen. It is getting charged somehow. So thanks to the gentleman with that answer, and you too, Bill. W5GUS.
Okay. It also depends on the season. Depending on the season, there are times when it may not get enough light. That's the trouble on Mars there. Depending on dust, some of that's seasonal, I think, and some of it is there's, the sun's at different angles, different seasons. Okay. Any other last comments or check-ins before I close the net? This is N5BB, Skynet. Tonight we had 22 hams participating on the air and on Echolink. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org after this net. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB. Bill, I'll be closing the net at 9:33 p.m. Excuse me, 10:33 p.m. local time. We're turning the repeater to normal amateur use until the afterglow net. 73s, everybody. Over to you, Tom, K5ICX and 5BB.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill. We'll be back. Let's take a break for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll be discussing Bride of the Monsters from 1955, the Ed Wood Craptacular, back in 5, KE5ICX. time for the Expo Movie Net. Yeah, it's another winner. Go this evening for the After-Go Movie Net. Tonight's movie, Bride of the Monster, from 1955. This is a 1955 American science fiction horror film written, produced, and directed by the infamous Edward D. Wood Jr., starring Bela Lugosi and Tor Johnson, with a supporting cast featuring Tony McCoy and Loretta King. The film is considered to have Wood's biggest budget of $70,000. Production commenced in 1954, but due to further financial problems, was not completed until 1955. It was released in May of 1955, initially as a double bill with Macumba. Everybody remembers that film. Well, nobody remembers that film. Now, in case you saw the film and didn't understand it, or you didn't see the film and don't want to understand it, here's the plot. In a stretch of woods, two hunters are caught in a thunderstorm. They decide to seek refuge at Willow's house, supposedly abandoned and haunted. They find Willow's house occupied, and the current owner repeatedly denies them hospitality. They attempt to force their entry into the house, but a giant octopus is released from its tank and sent after them. One of the fleeing hunters is hunted by the octopus, while the giant captures the other. The owner is a scientist, Dr. Eric Vornoff, and the giant is his mute assistant, Lobo. Vornoff explains that he will experiment on the unwilling hunter who dies in the operating table. In the police station, Officer Tom Robbins sees Lieutenant Dick Craig. There are now 12 missing victims, and the police still do not know what happened to them. How can that be? The reporter behind the newspaper reports is Janet Law, Craig's fiancée. Janet forces her way into the house office and argues with Robbins and vows to go to the lake marsh to investigate. At the police station, Robbins and Craig have a meeting with an intellectual from Europe, Professor Vladimir Strolsky, who agrees to assist the police in investigating the marsh, but not at night. As night falls, another storm begins. Janet drives alone to Lake Marsh, but visibility is poor and she drives off the road and into the ravine. Lobo rescues her. She awakens to find herself a prisoner. Vornoff, who uses hypnosis to put her back to sleep. The following day, Craig and his partner drive to an area around Lake Marsh, a swamp. The partners also discuss the strange weather and mention the newspapers could be right about the atomic bomb explosions distorting the atmosphere. The duo eventually discovers Janet's abandoned car and realizes she's is the 13th missing victim. They leave the swamp while Strowski drives the rented car to the swamp. Janet awakens at Willow's house. Vornoff assures her that Lobo is harmless, and the giant seems fascinated with the female captive and approaches her with questionable intent. Vornoff explains that the giant is human and that Vornoff found him in the wilderness of Tibet. Vornoff then hypnotically, there we go. Okay. Places Janet back to sleep. He orders Lobo to transport the captive to Vornoff's private quarters. Meanwhile, Strowski silently approaches Willow's house and enters through an unlocked front door. He searches the house. Vornoff arrives to greet him. Their country of origin is interested. Their country of origin is interested in Vornoff's groundbreaking experiments with atomic energy and wants to recruit him. Vornoff narrates the 2 decades prior. Vornoff then suggests using experiments with nuclear power which could create superhuman freight trains inside. In response, he is branded a madman and exiled by his country. Strowski reveals that he dreams of conquest in his country's name, while Vornoff dreams of his creation conquering his own name. Craig and his partner return to the swamp by late evening and discover Strowski's abandoned car. They're everywhere, all these abandoned cars. The partners split up to search the area, Craig heading towards Willow's house. Back in the secret laboratory, Vornoff uses a wave of his hand to summon Janet to his current location. She arrives dressed as a bride, summoned through telepathy. He's decided to use her as his next subject of his experiment. Lobo's participating in the experiments. Vornoff uses a whip to reassert his control over his slave, and meanwhile, the Craig has entered the house and accidentally discovers the secret passage. He himself captured by Vornoff and Lobo. And finally, as the experiment is about to begin, Lobo is visibly distressed. He decides to rebel and knocks Vornoff out. Lobo then releases Janet and transports the unconscious Vornoff to the operating table. The scientist becomes the subject of his own human experiment. This time the experiment works, and Vornoff transforms into an atomic-powered superhuman being. He and Lobo physically struggle, and their fight destroys the laboratory and starts a fire. Vornoff grabs Janet and escapes from the flames. Robbins and the other officers arrive to help Craig. The police pursue Vornoff through the woods. There is another thunderstorm, and the lightning strike further destroys Willow's house. With his home and equipment destroyed, the distressed Vornoff abandons Janet and merely attempts to escape. Craig rolls a rock at him and lands him in the water with the octopus. They struggle until a nuclear explosion obliterates both combatants. Apparently, the end result of a chain reaction started at the destroyed laboratory. Robin says that Vornoff, he tampered in God's domain. The end. Oh, and there's all sorts of details you don't care about involving production and release, which I'm sure would be interesting. And under normal circumstances, these are not normal circumstances, so we will continue. So here we go. I'm going to take check-ins. Some of you may have seen the movie last Saturday evening during field day. We're glad you came by and saw it and had a chance to have some food. We had food. We had a whole bunch of food. So with that, I'll go ahead and take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Bride of the Monster from 1955? I will begin now.
November 5, Sierra, Quebec, Alpha. No.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot. This is Virginia. I did see the movie.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill. I did see the movie at field day.
Okie dokie, we got 3 check-ins so far. We got N5SQA, Ron. He just simply says no. No to what? No, he did not see the movie. No, he does not want to talk about the movie. No, he did not see the movie, nor does he want to talk about it. And V5F, Virginia, yes, she saw it. N5VB, Bill, yes, he saw it. Additional check-ins come now. This is going to be a quick nap this evening. Oh well, Brenda wanted me to check her in, WB50ZL. Brenda, if you have anything you want to go ahead and type in anywhere, I'll make note of it along the way. She does say this is the best movie she has ever seen. I find that hard to believe, but you never know. It is Brenda. She probably picked this film. In fact, I'm sure she picked this film. It's that good. Anyone else? Last chance before I begin. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. There may be some stragglers showing up here in a little bit. We'll start with, Ron says no. Ron, I'll ask you before you disappear into the night. Do you know Ed Wood, and have you seen his film from KE5IC?
Yes, I've seen a number of Ed Wood films. I did not see this one. I was somewhat fascinated by your oral retelling of the plot. I don't think I'm going to take the time to go watch it, but I'll lurk here for a while. Carry on. N5SQA.
Very good. Thank you, Ron, and thank you for checking in and listening in intensely as you learn about fine cinema here late night on Saturdays every week at this time. Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, here's your opportunity to talk about round one, which will go very quickly. I have a strange feeling about the plot. What did you think about the plot? Was this complex? Did it invoke, the atomic age and how it can be misused in the wrong hands? And what do you think? Did Tor Johnson deserve an Academy Award for his performance, or Bela Lugosi with Tor together again? What do you think? From NV5F from the 5I6.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, the plot it's a pretty standard atomic age, 1950s atomic monster plot. There wasn't. It's funny because it's called Bride of the Monster, and I guess they sort of leave it to the viewer to determine who the monster is. Is it the evil scientist, or is it the big, sidekick thug guy, or is it the octopus, or is it, I don't know who the monster is in this. It was very confusing in that way. I thought the plot was easy to follow because it's got all the typical twists and turns in it that a monster movie. There's always a girl, and there's always, like the character who's kind of a monster, and he's obsessed with the girl, and then it turns out that the real monster is, his master, and so it followed the typical things. I'd never seen this movie all the way through, and I've mostly seen references to it, which I'll get to probably in round 3, but the plot was actually moved pretty well. It was pretty easy to follow. It was fairly predictable, I think, but I thought it was pretty easy to just follow along, and I didn't get bored. I thought that it was at least paced okay, and the charm and cheesiness of Ed Wood is often in the stereotypeness. Everything's so cookie-cuttered and obvious and heavy-handed. It was obviously a very preachy, thing about atomic, the atomic age and what atomic experimentation, and there wasn't a lot of real science to it. But the real charm in Ed Wood movies is a lot of times just the bad editing and the really bad special effects, which I'll be talking about some of that later on. But the plot was okay. It was pretty much what you'd think a 50s monster movie atomic plot should be. It had some reversals in it, and the characters. The opening was pretty standard, and the reporter going off to investigate on her own, after everybody telling her not to, that was pretty standard stuff, and then her getting captured, and the bad guy getting his in the end, and that was a big thing back then. The bad guy had to get his in the end of a movie back in those days. So it was looking pretty bleak there toward the end, and I was actually worried that a little bit of suspense and some action and fighting, and it's hard to know who to root for there toward the end. You've got Lobo and the little doctor, the other doctor who finds him, and then you've got him, and he makes his big speech about no one understanding him, and it had kind of a post-World War II, Nazis experimenting on people kind of sort of feel to it, and it was actually it was way more okay than I thought it was going to be. I'll just put it that way. It ended abruptly, but that's how movies ended back then. When I watch really old movies, I go, man, okay, there's not much of a wind-up after the plot resolution, the climax, and everything's sorted out. They don't hang around and they don't wind down at all. It's over, the end. So, good guys win, bad guys lose. Save the girl, save the day. Bad guy gets his, evil octopus, mushroom cloud, the house blowing up when the lightning struck it at the end. I wasn't quite sure how I felt. That was kind of dumb, but there was probably atomic stuff in there. That must have been what they were saying, is that his lab was full of atomic stuff, and, it blew up when the lightning struck it or whatever. So I love those movies where the thunderstorm comes at exactly the right time. They seem to always be that way, and it's always some stock footage of lightning and all that. And the colorizedness of the movie, that's probably for round 3. But anyway, that's all I'll say about the plot. K5ICX NV5.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and I'm shocked to find that you enjoyed this film, but in a quirky sort of way. But very good. Okay, next up is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the plot for our fine film this week, KE5I6?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. I think Virginia's right on. I like her attitude about the film. I did think it was better than I anticipated. I was thinking it was going to be just completely awful, and it was just reasonably awful, not completely awful. Let's put it that way. As she said, it had the Lobo character. It had the damsel in distress. I think there was at least one good scream somewhere in the movie, if I remember correctly. You got to have a scream. There was there were two evil creatures, the octopus thing and then Lobo, who wasn't treated as a human. I mean, they cracked a whip on him. Oh, man. He was treated as a subhuman. Anyway, things about the plot. Craig rolls the big rock. No. That rock was way too big for him to move. And why was it positioned just at the right place? No. That would not have happened. As he said, the plot kind of moved along. The octopus was rather confusing. Of course, they only had one or two views of it because they had to either zoom in or zoom out, and they must have taken the same footage and repeated it through the movie. They didn't have a lot of interesting footage of that. Except for the fake footage when they had the fake octopus tentacles around somebody, and that was normal kind of bad special effects for the age. So I guess I'm kind of agreeing. I'm agreeing with Virginia that for an Ed Wood film, this may have been one of his better films, such as it was. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thank you. Let's see. I'll go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins. Brenda's there, but she's not typing anything, so I'm sure at some point she will. She's moved. She doesn't have the radio set up quite yet, and she has a little problem with echoing this evening, so we're able to get her in on time, although she is listening. So I'll go ahead and ask, are there any additional check-ins? Tonight's movie is the wonderful, fine Ed Wood film, Ride of the Monster from 1955. Would you like to talk about it, or you just want to talk about, I don't know, Ed Wood stuff in general, you can do that as well, or horror films specifically. Please come with your call, your name, and did you see this fine film?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Well, since you gave me a reason to check in, Tom, November 8, Whiskey Romeo and Grapevine. I did not see the film, but I am familiar with Ed Wood.
Very good. Now we're reaching a quorum here. I've got KB5 SOK, Sean Fort Worth. Yeah, you saw the film. And N8 WWR, Romy, who's in Grapevine, who dares to discuss the famed Ed Wood. So I'll have you both here. So we'll start with Sean. You know the rules. You know the game. KBSOK, what'd you think of the plot from KE5 ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everything everybody said so far. Yeah, I was expecting it to be really, really, really bad. And yeah, and it wasn't good, but it wasn't, I guess, as bad as I was expecting. But by far not the worst thing we've seen this year. I think that was a couple weeks ago. But definitely not great either. But yeah, it followed all the typical tropes. You know, nothing really special there. Of course, really crappy science. Yeah, I don't know how you explain, you know, how exactly he was using nuclear power there, putting a light on their forehead and just shocking them with electricity. I'm not quite sure how that equals nuclear transformation, but most of these old movies didn't make a lot of sense back then in that era. But yeah, once again, it was pretty standard. The movie was kind of short in a way, which was nice because it's kind of nice just to get it done over with, but in places it was actually slow as well. I thought they spent way too much time in the police chief's office, just general chit-chat. It seemed like it was just kind of a waste of time. So I felt that was a little slow, and they could have probably trimmed that down and shortened the film even more. But yeah, I did think it was, you know, once again we had the woman that got scared and fainted. I don't know why these big movies back in the 50s all thought that had to happen, because I've never ever met a woman that fainted from being scared, or a man, or anybody that fainted just from the sight of anything. So I thought that was funny. And then at the end, of course, we had to have the great battle with the guy trying to save the girl, and then of course, you know, his shirt just gets destroyed like they did in every 50s movie. So he definitely followed the standard check boxes and made sure he covered that. But yeah, just kind of, oh yeah, and the other slow part was we spent forever watching cars drive around in mud. I guess they thought that was entertaining. I could have done without that, but yeah, not a whole lot to say about this. It's like I said, pretty much standard monster movie for the time. Pretty much followed Edwards' kind of styling, and then obviously, yeah, there's a lot to say about special effects and stuff later. You know, one thing it's kind of not really plot. What kind of? But anyway, we can cover that later. Yeah, back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, and thank you, Sean. And yes, we had a long discussion and a lot of catcalls at the octopus. So we'll get to that a little bit later. So I'm very curious. Romy, we woke Romy up discussing this film, and he is bravely checked in. So Romy, N8WWR. What do you think about Ed Wood and his fine films through the years? And maybe you saw this, well, you didn't see this film, but you have seen some of them. What do you think from KE5 ICX?
Well, Tom, I'm going to be brutally honest, which I try to be 100% of the time. Sometimes it offends people, but I don't like to sugarcoat things. I honestly have never seen an actual Ed Wood film, but I've seen the movie Ed Wood probably a dozen times, but not in the last 5 years or so. So I have to, I got to watch this film and some more Ed Wood films. Yeah, you know, I feel bad checking in, you know, because I don't really have a whole lot to contribute to the net. But you You kind of twisted my arm there a little bit. This is, by the way, this is N8WWR, Romy, in Grapevine. Reset. And interesting fact, I digress a little bit. You know, KB9SLK is in Fort Worth, but he's east of me. So that's, yeah, he's east of me, but he's in Fort Worth. So there you go. I digress a little bit. But, yeah, Ed Wood, my favorite scene in the film Ed Wood, I'm going to just real quick, is when Bela Lugosi or gets upset when he's called the sidekick to Boris Karloff, and he gets very upset. He's like Karloff, sidekick, you know. So yeah, you know, I gotta start. I gotta check some of these films out there. So Tom, thanks for pulling me in, and like I said, I'm sorry if I don't have anything to add, man. N8WWR.
Well, thanks, Romy. And you know what? No, you did have something to add. I love that film. Ed Wood, the film itself was Johnny Depp, and it's got, who am I thinking, plays Bela Lugosi? Martin Landau plays Bela Lugosi, and he did a great job, by the way. And the whole thing is just wonderfully done. I love that film, and I should pull that thing out and watch it again. It's been a while since I've seen it, too. So, yeah, it's one of my... It's got an interesting vibe to it. You know, you really feel for Ed Wood through all of this and all of this enthusiasm. Johnny Depp does a great job. He always does. I'm not always a big fan of his chosen roles, but whatever he plays, he usually does a pretty darn good job. And I think that portraying Ed Wood the way he did was quite entertaining, and I enjoyed it. Now, to this film, a lot of things that I could say, and I agree with what some folks said, is that it's not a terrible film. It's just a bad film. And it works. It's watchable. Would you want to watch it again? Probably watch it again sometime in the future, but not anytime real soon. It's just very slow-moving plot, slow-rolling dialogue. The thing with the detective and the police station, that it's a business with the bird and all that, the parakeet, whatever the hell it is, which I think he brought from home. I think he couldn't find a parakeet sitter or parrot sitter or whatever the hell that thing was. So he just brought it to work and decided to make it part of his business. So there's that. There's the long, drawn-out dialogue that goes on in the police station. And there's the long, drawn-out discussion about what we're going to do with the scientists in the homeland. And geez, if they're going to do that, at least make, sing a song or something. Maybe it just needed a little musical number. It might have helped it quite a bit. Although you got to wonder sometimes, Janet? Damn it, Janet. Could have been Janet from this movie. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think it was. There's a lot of things going on. I laugh, and when every car ends up being lost in the forest or woods or something. And how far away is the house from the city? I don't know, but it looks like it's about 15, feet away from the city, and then you get on the road, which is really weird. So the continuity part is a bit strange. I'm trying to remember if this film had I think it had a continuity, or I know one of the other films did. Plan 9 from Outer Space did, where it's darkness, and then it's daylight again and darkness again. And if I remember, this film did have that same problem. So the one thing I did notice with an audience is that our audience, being the hands such as they are at 10:30 at night, we're getting a little tired, and they didn't pay a lot of attention to the actual dialogue. Not that the dialogue would have helped it any bit. Yeah, I could see people meandering. Now think about a bunch of kids at a matinee watching this film, waiting for Tor to do something. It takes forever. By the way, I don't know how many times I've got the sequence for turning the monster nightlight on and the controls and everything down to a fine art. It just goes on and on and everything. taking forever to actually turn everything on and turn everything off, and putting the spaghetti strainer on. It just took the plot and just brought it to a new slowpoke speed. All right, well, let's see here. I guess we'll move on. Let me ask if there's anybody else who wishes to check in. Please come now with your call signs to the movie Bride of the Monster from 1955. I'm enjoying it. Oh, well. Okay, let's go to the top of the list. This would be, I'll let Ron, he probably has disappeared, but let's go to Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your chance to talk about the plot, not the plot, but the characterization and the acting in our fine film, Bride of the Monster. Please go ahead with your observations from KE5 ICX.
Okay, acting. I think there were some reasonable actors in this movie. The script wasn't great, and the directing wasn't great, so even if you're a pretty good actor, it's hard for that to come across when the story you're doing is trite or crummy, or the director doesn't know how to get a good performance out of you. You know, Bela Lugosi was a pretty good actor, and I think he did the best he could with what he had, and you know, he had to play a bad guy that you were supposed to kind of feel for a little bit. The other characters were pretty cookie cutter. You know, the detective guy, his girl, big dumb sidekick, you know, Igor type character. The you know, the other little scientist doctor guy, were all really typical. And, you know, everybody did, I think they did the best they could with what they had, and there were little moments that were funny. There were little bits of dialogue that were humorous, and they did good with some timing, but you know, you guys brought up Ed Wood. I wondered who was going to be the first to bring it up. I was kind of saving it, and this is the movie that at the end of Ed Wood, this was kind of the climactic part of the movie where they were making this film, and they even, you know, did a you know, the scene where Bela Lugosi really gets to act, you know, and he says, "Home, I have no home, hunted, despised, treated, you know, living like an animal," you know. I mean, I was waiting for that moment just so I could see it for real, and, you know, he did a good job. You know, he was a good actor, and it does kind of make you care about him. And but yeah, I have to chime in on Ed Wood a little bit here, and then some at the end. I really loved that movie when it came out. It's one of Tim Burton's better movies. As far as it not being so self-indulgent, it actually is, you know, probably the most self-indulgent thing about it is that they made it in black and white, but that works because all of it with movies at the time, they were black and white. So I really did love that movie, and it made Ed Wood, I think, much more of a sympathetic character than I think he really was in real life. I think he was a hack, and he was a huckster, I think, a little bit, trying to get his stuff funded. But he did have that, you know, that message he was trying to bring, you know, that we shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't tamper in God's domain. And I think he really believed that. And I think these characters, you know, the guy, you know, that line at the end, I think that was his real sentiment in this. And but honestly, I think the octopus was probably the best actor, and he was just stock footage, you know, of probably an octopus that was about the size of, you know, probably about the size of a cantaloupe, and you know, they would intercut it with the wonderful footage that they did of their big special effect octopus, which I recall in the movie they said you had to act like it was killing you because they somehow, when they rented the octopus or stole it, I can't remember, I haven't seen the movie in forever, but they didn't get the motor that ran it, so everybody had to just lie there and flail around and act like it was killing them. And this is probably more stuff for round 3, but none of the acting that any of those people did at that time convinced me that octopus was moving at all. So on that front, they weren't very good actors. But anyway, I could go on and on. This movie was, I think that's why I enjoyed watching it, because I had seen the dramatized version of them making it in Ed Wood so many times that it was fun to actually see it for real. So anyway, back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Interesting, very interesting. I like your comments very much. Bill, N5BB, your thoughts on the acting and the characterization for Ride of the Monster from 1955 from KT5
This is N5BB. Well, again, I pretty much agree with Virginia. The characters were very stereotypical, and the actors and actresses played them, I'm sure, the way they were written, and did whatever they could with the limited amount of material they had and the low budget, effectively. As far as the characterizations, of course, it's hard to know. Did some of the other horror films copy this one, or did this one copy other ones? I mean, the whole thing when the monsters and the bad guys kind of walk around with their hands stretched out or whatever. I don't know why they had to kind of copy each other on those kind of tropes. This is N5BB. And I was really kind of horrified by the whip. I don't know where that came from. And of course, they had the heroine strapped down to the table. So there's a little bit of sadomasochism there. And I don't know if that was intentional, unintentional. What did they think about it? I just wonder what the actors and actresses thought about this movie, with him using the whip on Lobo and her being strapped down to that thing. It was kind of like some hidden kind of elements in the movie that were, couldn't be shown, and kind of like some of Ed Wood's other films. It couldn't be shown out in the open, so they kind of did it hidden, kind of, you're supposed to wink and think about it. A little bit of that wink kind of thing. But I guess that's about it. The professor was definitely a professor. I mean, the visiting professor with the hat and everything. And the other characters kind of, did their stereotypical jobs, I guess. I guess I'll make some more comments next time about the production values. N5BB.
Okie, thank you, Bill. Next up, Brenda hasn't said anything except that Ed would do the monster. I think she means that metaphorically. Let's see, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization, acting, you know the gig, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think one of the keys here is I haven't seen the Edward film. I guess I need to see that because it seems like that brought a lot more enjoyment to this film, so that may kind of explain why the rest of you seemed to enjoy it a little more than I did. So I may have to catch that sometime. Sounds like it must be pretty good. So yeah, the characters were, I think everybody said, pretty stereotype. You know, I do think that the police chief was, you know, it didn't seem like to me he was really a real police chief. I'm pretty sure they don't really act that way. Just, you know, nonchalant like that in his office and just, you know. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about the way he was portrayed, and you know, and I guess yeah, the hero was kind of your typical hero, and of course, yeah, we have the damsel in distress, and you know, go out and do her thing. You know, she don't need nobody's help, and so she did okay. Yeah, the monster, kind of hard to screw that up, but yeah, it is kind of funny when they do the whole arms out thing, walking around. That's kind of classic for these old 50s movies. So yeah, so I guess you could say the monster was played well. And yeah, the mad scientist was clearly a mad scientist, over the top, like most of these films. But you know, not surprising with this film. But I do feel that in places, but being a low budget, I guess it kind of explains. I imagine there wasn't very many takes, because I actually kind of felt in places that the timing was off, and that it didn't seem to flow as well as you'd seen a more polished movie. So there's a few times there it kind of took me out of the whole thing a little bit. It was just a little distracting at times, but being low budget, that's probably they didn't have time to really work it out. Yeah, the actors did what they could, but it definitely wasn't no Oscar worthy for sure. The third round will be more entertaining, but that's a good note to know about the octopus that they forgot the motor and didn't pay for it, because I wonder why the people were just wallowing around and the octopus wasn't doing anything. That's kind of funny. Anyway, back to that KB9S, okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, it's amazing with some of the trivia stuff that ends up being exposed in these films. Of course, thanks to the interwebs, we can do that, look things up and find out about background on our films. Sometimes that's more interesting than the films themselves. All right, well, I beat up Romy on the last round, and so I'm not going to bug him this time. His big deal is Ed Wood, the movie, and I agree with him. I think it's a wonderful film. Go back and see it. Now, as far as the acting, I can go down the list here. I've got the cast and the Wikipedia up here. Bela Lugosi as Eric Vornoff. Bela Lugosi playing Bela Lugosi, and he does an admirable job doing the whole thing. And, of course, his accent helps tremendously. Tor Johnson as Lobo. Lobo is, I thought, was entertaining in that no matter where they were, whether they were in the building or outside near the swamp, or there's the octopus cage, or his Tor is never very far away. He reminded me of Lurch on the Addams Family, that anytime they rang the bell, Lurch would just appear right there. He would just step into the frame. And I think that they probably got this idea from this film, because wherever they needed Tor to be to apprehend or overpower one of our heroes, Tor was right there. Lobo was right there. He'd come out from behind a bush when he's outside. He'd come out from behind equipment or a door or whatever. He was never more than about 3 feet away from the action. So you got to give Tor a lot of credit. The one thing he needs to learn to do, though, is that if he sees the whip, try and get a little further than 2 feet away from the whip, and especially if the whip is like, 5 feet long, 6 feet long. You really gotta, if you can get in that close, you can get away that fast. You need to work on that. Lobo. Let's see, Lieutenant Dick Craig, who cares? Tony was fine. Loretta King as Janet Lawton. She was fine, no problems there. Lots of screaming, though. Lots of screaming. Captain Robbins and the Birdman from Alcatraz, he was okay. The whole bit with the bird got a little out of hand after a while. Professor Strowski, fine. In that, whatever that thing is with the little professional educator look that he had with his jacket and the shirt with the, what is that thing, that bow tie thing that they wear? Whatever. the loose bow tie. I don't know what they call that. Let's see, Officer Kelton. I don't know. Okay, I guess that's right. He was there to go after the just before the nuclear attack. Then I think I had our two, was it Mac and Jake? I think they were. I get mixed up after a while. Our two detectives checking everything out, playing with the guns again. I don't know what it is about Ed Wood films, but whenever there's any sort of sidearm involved, it requires that the actors all pull their sidearms out and start using them to scratch their foreheads or to spin around or not, show some sort of a fancy play with it. You just wouldn't do that with a gun when you're not supposed to. But they were doing all sorts of crazy things to try and do bits of business on film. Not real interesting. Tilly was great as the person who could cut out coupons for things. She was amazing. Or was it Margie? I forget. It is. And that's about it. The rest of these people I don't care about. Well, I don't care about the first people either, but you gotta have them do something. But we have our two favorites in the film this time, which were, or maybe three. We have Loretta, we got Tor, and we got Bella. What more could you possibly want? Okay. I don't think I had anything else to say on that. So we'll go to the third round. Third round will be special effects, music, whatever you want to talk about. We'll start at the top. We'll go with Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, you said you had some things you wanted to talk about here on special effects. Go for it from AE5ICS.
Okay, well, I did mention the octopus last time, and I just think that's hilarious. Like that they were like, just I can't remember the line in the movie. It was like, move his arms around, make him look like he's trying to kill you or something. It was really hilarious. But those were to me the funniest scenes with the non-working, giant fake octopus juxtaposed with the fluid, beautiful, stock footage that they got somewhere of an octopus swimming, and didn't even make much of an effort to make it really look like, the cutting between them was even the least bit natural. It was very, very obviously, it was very obviously fudged to the fact that they didn't have, really didn't have a good octopus. But and that I remember that just because it was so in the movie. It was so totally one of the big jokes in the movie, in the Tim Burton movie. And the other thing I remember in Ed Wood was the Bela Lugosi's hypnotic hand movement, and I'm not sure if this ever really happened in real life, but the Johnny Depp version of Ed Wood being fascinated with that and trying to emulate it. And so when I was watching the film earlier this evening, I was actually doing that. I had my hand out and I was trying to do those, I'm trying to do it now, those Bela Lugosi hypnotic finger movements, and how he could look at you and do that hand movement and hypnotize you. It was just so, the character in the movie so admired him and would always put him in a film and, have him do his stock, Bela Lugosi Dracula things. So I loved getting to see that in this movie. And special effects, the big heavy rock that the guy could move, and the stock footage lightning, and the superimposed, fire done with, I guess, some kind of, compositing, and, and then the fact that this was colorized is one of those things that just, I kind of don't like colorized movies. I thought they did a pretty good job with this one. They only oversaturated the color in a couple of places, so I could actually sort of imagine that it was still in black and white. So I think that was kind of interesting that it was a colorized version of this. I love what you said about the long process in the lab, you know, going through the controls. But that was every Mad Scientist movie had big walls full of dials and switches and big knife switches and things to turn and, you know, like sparking things. And I liked that his lab had a full kitchen in it. You know, there's a fridge and some cabinets over there. You know, you could grab a sandwich, you know, between killing victims with your atomic, you know, comment. You know, people being strapped down to tables, that was pretty common back then. It was pretty normal in these kind of movies. You know, you had to strap your victim to a table before you put the evil, you know, head frying, brain frying, whatever you were going to do to them. But it was very not politically correct, you know, how women were portrayed. They're screaming and fainting and getting strapped to tables, and you wouldn't find quite as much of that now, I don't think, but it was just so common back then. They were, you know, for that lady to go out on her own and figure out what was going on was, you know, that was highly hyper-feministic back then. So, you know, it's just interesting how we look at it from our point of view, but back then that was all really normal. You watch a monster movie and that's what you get. You get a lady who's often scantily clad and being ogled by some monster that can't even, like, verbalize, like, you know, kind of like Lobo, and that was just such a normal, you know, it was almost like, you know, it's like, but that's, and the master whipping him, and I mean, that all goes back to even things like The Hunchback of Notre Dame and literature and stuff like that. So, you know, Frankenstein and those kind of things. So, I don't think that was too troublesome at the time. But I'll end with this, an anecdote. I'll reset. I know we're on a long reset, but I'll reset for this because I hope it doesn't get too long. But when I lived in Los Angeles, they were making this film, and a friend of mine and I were. We both worked in the entertainment industry, and somehow we found out that there was going to be a test screening of this. And we were both big Tim Burton fans, and so we went to where they were doing the test screening, and they didn't want showbiz people to be in the test screenings. They wanted it to be just Joe moviegoer. And so when you're in line, they make you fill out these surveys, and you have to write, like, who you are and what your profession is and where you're from and you know, all that. And my friend Doug, who was with me, he actually, like, made up a name of some friend of his that he grew up with in Oklahoma, and I can't remember what he said his job was. And I was still looking for a job, so I wrote unemployed. I hadn't found a job yet, so I wrote unemployed on mine, but he had to make up something because he worked in the special effects side of things. In fact, he was the assistant to Eric Allard. He's the guy who built Johnny Five, so and that's how I actually had gotten to be friends with him. But anyway, so we kind of faked our way into a screening of this and got to see it before it was all the way finished. And when I saw it in the theater when it actually was released, there was very little that they changed between the screenings. Of course, they tightened up the editing and the sound editing, and I think there were temp tracks in some of it for music, but overall it was pretty much the same movie. So that's my kind of fun memory of this movie, is that I actually first saw it when it was in its test screening phase, and really, really liked it then. And it you know, just really made me interested in seeing this movie, and probably made me like it a little bit more than I would have, and maybe made me pay attention a little bit more than I would have if I didn't already know that Ed Wood was considered the worst film director of all time, and, you know, and is kind of now kind of a cult favorite. So anyway, that's it for me. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their 4th of July weekend. KE5ICX in the net in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you for your comments. And that's very interesting. I love the personal stories, too. I think you're talking about Ed Wood, the movie, which is... I don't think you're around in 1955, but That may know you were around the time of the Tim Burton. Ed Wood. Okay, next up, Bill, N5BB. Bill, your comments on, I don't know, special effects, music, that sort of jazz for KE5 and ITX.
Thank you, Tom, N5BB. Yeah, thank you for clearing up the time machine thing there. Now I understand. Ed Wood, the film. Yeah, so some things about this movie that just were pretty bothersome, I think. When Janet is strapped down and the evil scientist guy there is kind of discussing to her, he says, "It hurts just for a moment, but then you will emerge a woman." And you know, she's wearing this bridal gown, so this is kind of odd, you know, kind of a sexual reference thing there, and just very weird. Also, the fact that Lobo likes the soft kind of fur, which evidently the Angora wool, which evidently, according to Wikipedia, is a reflection of Ed Wood's fetish for the material. But that was pretty weird to have in there. And so there were some things in there that were odd. According to Wikipedia, the mushroom cloud, nuclear explosion things, was, I think, put in there because of one of the people that supplied the money or the location or something insisted to be put in there or something. The colorization was too bad, but I don't know. I guess I've seen worse, but it still wasn't very good. It looked like kind of a black, orange, and green film or something. One thing about it that I thought was weird was because they had limited sets, and so there's this, whatever it is, the sitting room or the library or whatever, where people come into, the living room of the evil layer. This is in 5BB. And they come in, and sometimes the people that come in, they look around to the left where there's some stairs, but they never go up those stairs. They never go up them. They always go down through, across. We see all the things on the wall in the background and everything. And it's just kind of weird there. And the fact that the young hero is able to accidentally lean on something that opens up the secret passageway. They always have these secret passageways. All these movies copied each other. I don't know. I think he was trying to produce a 1930s movie or something in the late 50s, and so he thought he had to have things like that. With regard to all the machinery and everything, you notice that Lobo had no trouble operating it, even though at some point he was whipped because he seemed to not be following instructions correctly and not doing a good job. He had no trouble going back and getting all that complex machinery all running to, which is pretty weird. If he was mentally deficient, how did he do that? Was he just a mechanical puppet that was copying things? I agree. The octopus was kind of the main character in parts of it, and it was done very poorly. You know, they could have put a little bit of effort and made it look a little bit better. But all these monster films had very low budgets for monster special effects, and whether it be a spider or some other creature, insect. They just did the basic things to make you think it was, to make you guess it was real. Anyway, I think that's all I've got. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on, I don't know, special effects, music, lighting, you name it, anything you want to talk about from KB5ICX.
Yeah, there's KB9SOK. Yeah, I think it's been pretty well said, most of it. Obviously, the octopus was probably maybe the worst part of it, even though it was really the main monster. It was just, unfortunately, they needed to spend more time, and, as you said, the stock footage it didn't look at all like the one that they had when the people were captured, and, it's unfortunate that wasn't done very well. But yeah, as far as special effects, the lab is typical of all these old monster movies. You got to have the knife switches, and of course you got to have the oscilloscope. They love doing that. Every one of us had to have one of those and run your standard, sine wave pattern on it, and somehow that magically tells you everything about everything. And then of course we got to have lights and flickering, and once again how that ties to atomic power, don't know. But I did think it was kind of funny too, the background behind the equipment. They had the wall there, and they tried to paint it to look like a stone wall. Why, I'm not sure. The house wasn't a castle, but they painted it to look like stone, and it's very clearly, you tell it was painted, very cheaply done. It looks like something that done 30 years ago back in a small playhouse. The kind of stuff we used to build on virtually no budget. So I thought some of that was funny, looking at some of the stuff laying around that they had back there. But once again, it's a little budget. I guess, too, maybe, in black and white, maybe it wouldn't have stuck out as bad. So, as far as lighting goes, it's kind of hard to tell, because when they colorize these, sometimes it can mess up what was originally intended. Because obviously when they made the film, it was black and white, so they, you take certain things into account when you do that. And it covers up certain things, and then other things you have to highlight because of that. So when you colorize it, you can kind of mess it up. And as already pointed out, the coloring wasn't the best. Wasn't the worst I've seen, but it wasn't the best. So that's kind of hard to make comments on that part of it. Yeah, these typical monster music in the background, and nothing really special there, but typical. Yeah, not a lot to say about this film other than that. I think it's already been covered, all the other special effects and what have you. So, once again, it was fun talking. Wish I could have made it out to field day. I was a little under the weather. I was hoping to make it out and meet everybody, and but maybe next time. So, yep, looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments. In fact, thank everybody for their comments this evening. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and see if anybody has any comments or would like to check in. If you'd like to join us this evening, we're talking about Ed Wood's spectacular film Bride of the Monster from 1955. Or if you have any comments about anything having to do with the Afterglow or, I don't know, horror films, Ed Wood, sci-fi, whatever you'd like, please come with your call and your name, please.
N8WWR, Romy.
NV5S.
All right, good. Romy, N8WWR, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
I took you literally. Yeah, so I had a little list going on kind of deal. So clearly I paid attention those half dozen times that I watched Ed Wood, because I would have known that Bride of the Monster was the film that they were making there in the Ed Wood film. So like I said, clearly I was paying attention. And my apologies, Virginia, for actually bringing that up first, but you have the really cool story about the pre-screening there, and your friend lying about his occupation, and you just saying you're unemployed. So that's pretty cool to get in there and seeing that. I remember watching the Siskel and Ebert on Ed Wood, and I was like, man, I got to see that flick. I got to see it. I was a freshman in high school when that came out there. Let me reset. Tim Burton, I digress a little bit. You said that was your favorite there, Virginia. I think I like Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure a little bit better, but Ed Wood is an excellent film there. And I, too, do not like colorization. Boo to Ted Turner. And, Tom, I got to start putting in some legwork. I'm going to, the wife goes to sleep, if I do the movie during the week, I can start participating and actually be prepared there. So that's my resolution there. Thank you for picking me up, Tom, and thanks for twisting my arm. I appreciate everything you do. KE5ICX N8WWR.
Well, thanks, Romaine. Thanks for participating. Yeah, watch the movie during the week. I put out the latest. In fact, if you go to the Afterglow movie on Facebook, I think anybody can get in. You can see what the next movies are. We've got a month's worth of movies in there that are for the week, so check them out and you'll see. Okay, next up is Virginia, NV5F. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I did have a couple of parting shots, and then Romy brought up some things. He mentioned favorite Tim Burton movies. I mentioned that I thought this was probably one of his best or better movies. Pee-wee's Big Adventure was his first major motion picture, and it was very good simply because he was directing a movie. He wasn't, basically given his own, he wasn't writing his own ticket and just doing whatever the heck he wanted to just being weird, and then Beetlejuice was pretty good. It was, it was a little more of the weird, but I did like that one. At the time Ed Wood came out, my favorite film of his was Edward Scissorhands, and I watched it not too long ago, and it some of it doesn't hold up for me, but it's such a dear memory of mine that I'll probably always like it. But I just liked this. I just thought this one was good in that it was kind of a departure from the kind of self-indulgent weirdness. It was weird in a different way, and it really worked. It just really is a good movie. But I wanted to agree with Sean about colorization being problematic in that the composition of a film film for color shooting and for black and white, composition is really different. And when you try to take something black and white and make it color, or vice versa, if you take a color film and desaturate it to black and white, it's not going to read right. And the same with a black and white film made color. You compose very differently for the value scales that you're going to get. The responses that you're going to get out of the film. The latitude of the film is really different for either one. So I thought that was interesting. And to follow his comment about wanting to come to Field Day, I've pretty much resolved that I would like to come to Field Day there next year, just so I can see everybody, watch the movie, kind of have a change of scenery, and I would love to show up and watch the movie and stay overnight and bust. I think it would be a lot of fun, and I'm sorry I missed it. And I'm sorry Cruz isn't here. Cruz actually came by the Arlington ARC Field Day, and I got to meet him in person, and we chatted a little bit, and I'm sorry that he's not here this evening because it was really fun to meet him last weekend. So anyway, those are my closing comments for the evening. Thanks, Tom, for running the net in V5S.
Well, thank you, Virginia, for your comments both on the film and on Field Day. Anybody out there listening, that's one of the reasons why Field Day is so much fun. There's an opportunity to meet others and sometimes people that you talk to a lot but never get to see. I mean, it's one of those hobbies. So definitely come out again next year. Cruz is great fun. I enjoy talking to him. I usually get to talk to him at the last one. I think it was Irving, the Irving Hamfest. I think is when I talked to him the last time in person. He's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, too, which is always fun. And he likes all the same things that we do. We're all a bunch of nerds, and we hang out together and have a lot of fun. So I agree. Yeah, come again next year, and maybe do the 12-city tour thing and go to different things. My first year I did that, which I thought was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that year, and now I just kind of hang with the DARC because, I had to kind of do some of these field days and get them set up and tore down, or at least do some of the work, if nothing else. But at any rate, it's still a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. I didn't do any final comments on any of the special effects stuff, but I was going to mention something. What was interesting is that if you've ever watched any of the old films, there was all the hardware that was in it. Young Frankenstein used all the original hardware that was used in the original Frankenstein movie, and that stuff got actually rented out after a while, so Jacob's Ladder and all of that. Well, of course, Ed Wood didn't have any of that money, couldn't get any access to any of that, so his next best thing was to take fluorescent lamps. That fluorescent lamp that you look at in the front, which I called it the monster nightlight when we were watching the film, because it always got turned on whenever we were going to do something to turn people into monsters or monsters into bigger monsters, whatever it is you're going to do. He turned that light on. Well, it was an actual fluorescent light. When you look at it, the odd angle, it's half of a light. Part of, I think, one of those old fluorescent, look like fans. Look like a fluorescent fan, which you have in large factories, and that was what I think that light was. So we would put a ballast on it and light it up. There's some other things like that as well, but not particularly all that great for the most part. Music wasn't bad. I don't know if that was just track music from elsewhere or whether it was actually composed for the movie. I have a suspicion it was tracked from elsewhere, but in any case, it did seem to hold up pretty well. The other stuff having to do with the night and all that, it was really tough to see some of those scenes, and you've got to know how to really like that stuff, and I don't think Ed was really good at that. But most of the time, I think he was on the lam, hiding from the permit police and all that, where he would go and film stuff without permission. I'm sure that was done in some park somewhere, and if the lights were too bright, that would alert the fuzz, and they'd be out to get him. But and that was also covered in the Ed Wood movie, too. At any rate, well, that was all very interesting. Let me take a look and see what is next week's movie. Please stand by.
Hey, Tom, can I make a quick comment as you're looking for that?
Yeah, perfect timing. Go ahead.
Okay, this is N5BB. I want to remind everybody that us National Space Society of North Texas group is going to make a little trip over on July the 4th, Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. to see Asteroid City, the new Wes Anderson picture, which is kind of science fiction-y, but it's really just kind of alternate universe weird. Anyway, I've already seen it, but I want to see it again. So if you want to come and see it with our group, with us, you're welcome to come on over. You don't have to be a member of our group to come to this. And but we'll be seeing it at 2 p.m. showing at the Cinemark IMAX and XD. This is the Cinemark theater that we used to go to for Skynet group. It's there at Webb Chapel and 635 on the southwest corner, just a block away from the hospital where we have the DARC meetings. So you can just come over there at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, 4th of July, and see the movie. Any questions, you can send me an email, n5bb@arrl.net, and I can send you we have a meetup group. I can send you a meetup thing if you want to see that, more details about it. N5BB. Thank you, Tom.
Hey, very good. Thank you, Bill. If you want to, you want to go and post a reminder, I don't know if you're on the Afterglow movie or not, but if you want to, go ahead and post it or send me an email and I'll post it so you can get a little more action. I would go. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family, so I cannot be there. I've got to go take care of some business down in Corpus. So, but have fun at the movie. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Next week's movie that I have listed is Oblivion. That's the Tom Hanks film from 2013. The Tom Cruise film from 2013, which is actually kind of interesting. I think we may have actually watched that as a group. I can't recall. It's been a while now. I mean, we're talking 10 years ago now, so it may have been or it may not have been, but I remember seeing it in the theaters. But it's an interesting film. Following that will be Apollo 18 on July 15th. And then on the 22nd, we've got Moonbase 3, Arrival from a 1973 television series. And then the last week of July will be Track of the Moonbeams from 1976. So you see, I've been loading these all into the Afterglow movie thing over on Facebook. You have to look on the guide, though. You have to go to the guide. I used to have just a document that you could open, and I can't do that anymore. They don't allow them, so I had to come up with something that worked. So the guide works. I can go ahead and put it in there, and you just open it up, and you'll see the movies listed from in chronological order. All right. Anybody else have anything that they want to bring to the net? Please come down with your call. Okay, hearing. I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thanks for participating. Interestingly, I didn't think we would have much of a net, but as is always the case, we seem to go 90 minutes no matter what. So we're coming up at the bewitching hour of midnight. Thank you all. We'll see you again next week at the same time. KE5 ICX. I'm clear. Have a good evening. See ya.
Tom, I'm looking through my email and my calendar. I don't think we saw a blip. Look at it. Thanks, Infi-BB.
Yeah, it may have been outside of the time that we were actually doing Afterglow movies. I'm not sure. We're reaching that decade thing, so yeah. We may not have. I know I wanted to go see it. It looked like a fascinating film when it came out, and it was very good, so I think it's well worth our time. All right, see you later. This is KE5, ICX clear.
The earliest Afterglow movie that I show, that I bothered to put